Chapter 181. So that was a charm after all. Everyone at the scene was frozen in place as they stared at the red snake that Xavier vomited. One by one, their faces showed looks of disbelief. No one could have ever imagined that the esteemed heir of the Horst family, who had a bright and promising future ahead of him, had stooped this low just to court someone. Xavier, I never thought you'd be like this. Claudia yelled angrily in shock. Who knew that she'd be the one who would be deceived by trusting him too much in the end? She almost became an accomplice in his schemes too. Xavier was at a loss for words as his face turned pale. The truth was already laid bare for all to see, so even if he still insisted on denying it, his attempts would be absolutely futile. HMPH. It's a good thing Dustin has a good eye to see through your evil schemes. Otherwise, Sheila would have fallen right into your trap. Ruth spat, her expression full of contempt. She hated despicable and shameless men like him the most, the type who was incapable of landing a girl for himself, and yet insisted on using unorthodox methods to do so. Absolutely disgusting. Sheila said nothing to all of this and merely looked at Xavier with disgust and a heightened sense of awareness. Yeah. So what if I gave her the charm? The only reason I did that was because I liked Sheila so much. I assure you that I'm the only person who's the best match for Sheila in the entirety of South City, so much so that Uncle Caden already treats me like his son-in-law. I only did this to expedite the marriage between both of our families, so what's so wrong with that? Xavier roared, clearly irritated. Ugh. You're such a hypocrite. It still doesn't change the fact that you had to stoop so low to get what you want. You're disgusting. Ruth spat on the ground. What do you know? What I have is true love for Sheila, a love that can't be compared with anyone else. Xavier retorted angrily. True love. If it really was true love as you proclaimed, why'd you have to kidnap Miss Murray in the first place? Dustin snorted. What the fuck are you talking about, kid? Xavier scowled. Miss Murray had been attacked twice, and your timing was right on the dot, which meant that someone secretly tipped you off. And as for the serpent love charm and the spider venom you put inside the four scoundrels' bodies, they both came from the same person. So, I've concluded that you have close ties to the four scoundrels, Dustin explained as a matter of factly. What a load of bullshit. Xavier yelled in response. If you really did nothing wrong as you claimed, then would there still be any need to kill the man off just now? Dustin threw the question back. I was just worried about Sheila's safety, which is why I struck him with my full power. Xavier explained stubbornly. Is that so? We still have a survivor here, so what say we call them up to ask them their side of the story? Dustin said before picking up a badly injured Wade with one hand. It was a good thing Wade was still semi-alive and not completely out of the picture yet. That's enough. Everything ends here, right now. Claudia shouted all of a sudden. Didn't you want me to state my case just now? Why the change of mind now? Dustin snickered. You'd better quit it now if you know what's good for you, Dustin. Tearing each other apart like this won't benefit anyone. Besides, this matter should be kept between the three of us and our families. We'll come up with the best way to deal with this, so we certainly don't need any outsiders butting into our business now. Claudia roared at Dustin. The Murray family, Doyle family, and Horst family had always been longtime friends. The three families were basically married to one another as their interests were intertwined. If one of them went down, then the rest would go down together too. Thus, if the scandal got out today, then it wouldn't just be the Horst family's reputation that would be damaged, but the Murray family and the Doyle family too. Therefore, even if it were at Sheila's awkward expense right now, they had to cease all questioning. Immediately. Wait, this guy's rotten to the core, and yet you still insist on helping him. Have you ever considered Sheila's feelings? Ruth yelled back in frustration. Shut up. You don't have the right to butt into our business. Claudia spat in disgust. Why you? Just as Ruth was about to explode in fury again, Dustin stopped her by putting his hand in front of her. Just let it go already. She's right. It's their own steaming heap of shit to take care of. It has nothing to do with us. But what about Sheila? Ruth frowned. The two of them had a good thing going, so she did not want her best friend to suffer like this. I'll be fine, Ruth. I've decided to leave this matter in the hands of my father, Sheila said as she forced out a smile. Chapter 182. Even though she said that, she secretly knew that her father would take Xavier's side out of his great fondness for him. When one was born into a wealthy family, joy wasn't as much of a significant consideration as the family's interests. All right. We all know how much Uncle Caden adores you, so he definitely wouldn't let you suffer, Ruth replied. And she no longer pressed her for answers. Let's go back home and take a nice nap, Ruth, Dustin yawned. After retrieving all of his golden needles, he spun around and was about to leave when a voice piped up again. Running away already? Xavier taunted, his expression now full of furious rage and his gaze scorching. He immediately pounced on Dustin while he wasn't paying attention and stabbed him with a knife. Just die already. Xavier roared as he pushed the tip of the blade into Dustin's back. Behind you. Ruth and Sheila shrieked in horror. Everyone else at the scene was also stunned by Xavier's sudden attack. No one expected that he'd launch a sneak attack against Dustin. Oh. Dustin hummed as his footsteps came to a halt. He then slowly turned his back to meet Xavier's crazed gaze. You want to kill me? So what if you die? I can kill trash like you whenever I want. Xavier laughed maniacally as he used more force to push the blade further inside. But it was soon after that he realized that something was off. It was strange to him that he couldn't seem to push the knife in any further as he tried to put more force behind it. Since you explicitly said that you're cut for my blood, then don't blame me for being merciless. Dustin grabbed Xavier by the neck and lifted him off the ground. Xavier gasped for air as his face turned red. He struggled to break free from Dustin's grasp as he flailed his legs wildly in the air. Dustin. Release him right now. Claudia commanded, her face aghast, after feeling an urge to kill him. He wants to kill me though. Are you saying I should just stand here and let him kill me? Dustin turned his head sideways, his gaze was as cold as ice. I don't care about that. You just can't hurt Xavier, no matter what. Otherwise, you'll be making yourself an enemy of all three of our families. Claudia threatened, that's right. Just let go of Xavier already. Or else, you won't like it when I'm angry. Nigel echoed. Mr. Horst is not someone you can mess with, Dustin. Just admit you're wrong, and who knows, you might just receive his forgiveness. Can't you look at the situation and adapt? Just let Mr. Horst stab you with a knife to let off steam, and all of this will be over. As long as you dare put up a fight, you and your family will be faced with calamity in the future. Yeah. In this world, it is useless to rely on strength alone. The most important thing is still power, so just kneel down to Xavier and admit your mistakes already. It's not anything shameful if it'll help you make it out of here alive, you know. The crowd erupted in a flurry of scoldings toward Dustin. Although they all knew that Xavier was in the wrong, they understood that he was still the one with absolute power. At this stage, it wasn't important who was right or wrong. Hey, you hear that, Rhys? I'm not someone you can simply cross, you know. So what if you can fight? You're just a puny martial artist, after all. One word from me, and your entire family goes poof. Kneel and bow down to me right now. Who knows, if you manage to appease me, I might even spare your puny life. Xavier sneered and believed that he already had this in the bag. What makes you so sure that I don't dare to kill you? Dustin asked, amused. Do you, though? If you do so much as touch a single hair on my head, I'll have your whole bloodline wiped out. Come on then, kill me. Aren't you the one who kept saying they were so powerful? Then kill me if you have the balls. I want to see if you have the balls too. Xavier shouted profusely, taking it to the extreme, until he was rudely interrupted by a violent smack by Dustin, which decimated his neck. He died instantly. Chapter 183. Why don't you get a better brain in your next life? Dustin spat as he looked at Xavier's corpse. And with one swift motion, he threw his dead body to the side with one hand, as if it were trash. Xavier's body landed with a thump near Claudia and the other's feet. Xavier's face was riddled with fear and disbelief. Even up to his death, he didn't understand why Dustin dared to make a move on him. Everyone gasped, petrified, as they stared at the corpse beneath their feet. Every single one of them was frozen in place and was at a loss for how to respond to the scenario in front of them. To think that an heir from an affluent family, who was also the pride of an entire city, had his life taken from him just like that. How was this remotely possible? After a brief silence, everyone at the scene erupted into a frenzy of chatter. Are you out of your mind, Dustin? Did you actually just kill Xavier? Claudia shouted with a face full of shock, looking at Dustin as if he were a maniac. The action of Dustin killing Xavier was akin to a peasant killing a king. It was simply treacherous and heartless. You've done it this time, bastard. You've really done it this time. Since you were the one who killed Xavier, no matter where you go in this world from now on, you've got nowhere to hide. The Horst family would surely want to exact their revenge on you, your entire family, and your friends after this. Everyone whom you've ever loved will be a target of the Horst family now, and they'll follow all of you to your graves. Nigel hissed frantically. He's insane. This guy's truly gone off his rockers. The Horst family comes from a long line of martial artists, and their influence spans the entirety of South City. They have countless disciples under their wing, so the fact that you committed such a heinous act means that you made yourself an enemy of said countless disciples too. Do you even know what you did? How dare you kill Mr. Horst? Even God can't protect you now. The crowd was in an uproar. No one had expected that Dustin would be so bold as to kill someone. Did he want to die so badly? As long as you don't cross me, I won't do the same back to you, but if you do, then I'll return the favor. This Horst wanted to take my life, so how could I let him live? Dustin's expression remained stoic. You're fucking insane. You madman. You'll definitely regret this. Claudia roared. She was still in shock at the turn of events. She shot him a look as if she were looking at a dead man. I never regret anything I do. If the Horst family wants revenge, just tell them that they're free to come to me anytime. Dustin snapped before turning around to leave. Hey, wait for me. You were so cool tonight, brother-in-law, but Xavier's not some small fry, you know. I doubt if things are going to end well after killing him. But you shouldn't worry, with the Harmon family's help, I'm sure we can take care of this matter for you. Ruth exclaimed before running up to catch up to him. Don't bother. I was the one who dealt the killing blow, so I shouldn't be afraid if his family wants to get back at me. Even if we end up fighting again, who knows which side will emerge as the victor this time around. Dustin was unconcerned. Are you for real? You don't need to put up a front, you know. Ruth said while eyeing him suspiciously. The Horst family, while slightly inferior to the Harmon family in terms of power, was still a force to be reckoned within the city. While Dustin had great power himself, he was up against an affluent family that had been here for years. Thus, it would seem like a single person was unable to fight against such a powerful force. You'll find out soon enough. Dustin let out a soft chuckle and refused to reveal too much. As soon as the two of them left, the room erupted into chaos once again. Quick! Notify the Horst family immediately. To think that that madman dared to kill Mr. Horst. We'll make sure he pays the price for it. Inside the council chamber at Fulridge Haven, Caden was drinking tea with a middle-aged man. I need to apologize to you about the Gozoroberry, Sir Gabriel. Unfortunately, the gem isn't in my possession right now, so I can't give it to you at the moment. Oh. What happened? Gabriel Horst asked with a puzzled look. The Gozoroberry was said to aid one in their quest to become a high-level martial artist. After hearing about this piece of news, he jumped at the first chance to obtain it for himself. 2 days ago, this punk named Dustin got lucky and managed to cure Sheila's illness, so he was rewarded with a gozora berry, Kirin explained. How can a mere brat have such a valuable item in his possession? Gabriel spat as he narrowed his eyes, his gaze annoyed. I thought the same thing. Although I was the one who gave it to him, it doesn't mean you can't get it back. Kirin insinuated. You're too kind. Since you can't be the one who takes it back from him, allow me to take care of this, Gabriel grinned. That would be the best course of action for now. However, try not to involve the Murray family, I don't want anyone gossiping about this, Kirin replied. Consider it done. This won't be the first time I'm killing someone just to get something I want, so I'll make sure that everything is done discreetly so that no one ever finds out about this, Gabriel plotted as an evil glint flashed across his eyes. Every man was considered innocent until a bounty was put on their head. How could a mere background character with no influence on his name possess such a valuable treasure? He definitely deserved to die. Sir Gabriel. Something terrible has happened. A guard from the Horst family suddenly interrupted the two of them with a panicked look. Because he ran too fast, he tumbled onto the ground after losing his balance. His movements made Gabriel furrow his brows. You fool. What are you panicking for? Gabriel snapped at the guard. The guard wanted to say something but stopped himself. Spit it out. What the hell is going on? Gabriel snapped, confused. Sir. Something terrible has happened. Mr. Horst has been killed. The guard wailed as he fell to his knees. What? What the hell are you talking about? My son seemed fine not long ago, so how is he dead now? Gabriel shrieked and shot out of his chair, his face full of horror. But it's true, Mr. Horst had his neck broken, and his corpse is outside as we speak. The guard cried. That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. Gabriel spat and frantically shook his head in utter disbelief. However, when they carried Xavier's corpse into the room, Gabriel felt as if he'd been struck by lightning, and his face turned pale as a sheet. Who the hell did this? Gabriel yelled frantically after reeling from his shock. His eyes turned bloodshot, and he started acting like a rabid beast. Such senseless violence. Such madness. It was done by a guy called Dustin Rhys. The guard managed to sputter out. Dustin Rhys, you fucking dog. How dare you kill my son? I'll break your body into pieces. I'll tear you to shreds. Gabriel roared while gnashing his teeth, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Pass on the order. Use up all your resources to search the entire city if you must. We must find that bastard at all costs. Chapter 184. After sending Ruth home, Dustin returned to the peaceful medical center. However, he couldn't help but frown the moment he opened the doors to the building. The place looked as if it had been ransacked. It was a mess. Boxes of medicine were scattered all over the place, and Dahlia, who had been rushing here and there the whole time, had on a face that was drenched in sweat. Diahica, where did he put the diahica? Dahlia mumbled to herself with a prescription in hand. After looking around for a while, she finally saw a box of diahica that had been stored in a medicine cabinet high above the ground. Since it was out of her reach, she could only retrieve it by stepping on a stool. What are you doing? Dustin asked coldly. Dahlia was startled by his question and lost her balance on the stool. Seeing as she was about to fall to the ground, Dustin instinctively grabbed hold of her before that could happen. It felt as if he was carrying something precious in his arms, as a nice smell wafted into his nostrils. After propping her up on her feet, he immediately, without a moment of hesitation, and let go of her. You're back already? Dahlia asked as her expression lit up for a brief moment before she quickly snuffed it out. Where did you go in the middle of the night? How come you didn't pick up my calls? I just went out for a bit and didn't bother checking my phone. What are you doing here? Dustin answered back with indifference. He assumed that she wasn't the type to take the initiative to search for him, especially with her arrogant attitude. I just so happened to pass by and saw Mr. Jones passed out at the entrance, so I helped him get inside. Dahlia explained. He passed out. What happened? Dustin asked with a frown. I heard that his house had been ransacked by thieves, and after fighting them off, he got severely injured in the process. I think you should head inside to take a look at him, Dahlia urged. Dustin said nothing more as he immediately complied with her request. Sure enough, he saw Gregory Jones lying on the bed with a pale complexion. Inside the steel basin under his bed was a pool of contaminated blood. When he went up to him to check his pulse, he immediately frowned. Gregory's celestial decay seemed to be getting worse. It was also getting worse at a faster rate than he had expected. You're back already, kid? Gregory asked as he slowly opened his eyes. He had a nonchalant expression on his face. I guess this condition is back again, but since that Dahlia girl gave me some medicine just now, I should be fine now. Gregory explained. What the hell happened here? Dustin asked as his brows furrowed deeply. To curb his celestial decay, he had specially placed several seals on Gregory's body. But now he could see that the seals had been loosened. This indicated that Gregory had been forced to use his true energy. Not long ago, a few scums arrived at the medical center and started blabbering about arresting you and talking about taking this gozora berry or something from you. Naturally, I refused to tell them anything and even beat their asses before they fled. However, I didn't know that by doing that, I'd be using my true energy, which would cause all of my old wounds to reopen. I really fucking don't know what to say. Gregory huffed. To think that 10 years ago, he could have easily taken care of all of those scum with a flick of a finger. It seemed that his age had finally caught up to him. Oh right, before they fled, they left you a note. Take a look at it yourself. Gregory added before pulling out a blood-stained sheet of paper. What? Dustin gasped after reading the paper over. 2 lines of words were written on it. Meet me at the horse dojo at 10 p.m. Remember to bring the gozora berry as well. If you don't show up, we'll get rid of your entire family. Were the words that were written on the paper. After he finished reading it, Dustin crumpled the paper into dust with one hand. It was fairly obvious that this was the work of the Horst family. He didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but since they were the ones looking for trouble in the first place, they couldn't blame him if he decided to play along. Anyway, it was a good thing that Dahlia girl came in clutch at the right time. Otherwise, I would have been in serious danger by now. Gregory let out a small sigh. Although the scoundrels didn't manage to scratch him, his internal injuries were quite bad. So, if it weren't for Dahlia's timely treatment, his life would have been in jeopardy. Thanks. Dustin muttered as he turned around to look at Dahlia with a complex look on his face. You're welcome. Mr. Jones has always been good to me, so I felt that it was only right that I returned the favor, Dahlia replied while wiping off her sweat. Regardless, I should still thank you for everything. Anyway, I have places to be again, so I'll have to trouble you to take care of Gregory here, Dustin said. Where are you headed to this time? Dahlia frowned. To get my revenge, Dustin declared. At night, in the commander's room at South City's military headquarters, a handsome young general was analyzing his battle formations on a sand table. Standing behind him were several female lieutenants, all of whom merely stood guard as they allowed him to do his thing. All of the gazes were filled with admiration and worship towards the man. One must know that the person in front of them was actually the youngest commander of Dragonmarsh. Paired with the goddess of war, Scarlet Spanner, they were known as the rising stars of the Spanner family. Not even 30 years old, he held power over hundreds of thousands of troops, he'd won hundreds of battles, achieved countless merits, and was definitely worthy of the title God of War indeed. No one was more capable in the entirety of Dragonmarsh than him. He was known as the National Warrior. At that moment, his phone started ringing. He'd received a call from an unfamiliar number. Adam Spanner raised his eyebrows slightly at this, as he thought that it was a bit strange. Hello, is this Adam Spanner? A familiar voice asked him the moment he answered the call. Who are you? How dare you call this commander by his name? The nerve, This is Dustin Rhys speaking. Adam instantly froze on the spot and didn't know how to respond. He immediately swallowed his words back down. After staying silent for a while, he finally mustered the courage to reply in a stiff manner, well, if it isn't Mr. Troublemaker. I thought you died in a ditch somewhere. I even brought flowers to visit your grave every year. Stop talking shit. I need you to do something for me. Dustin snapped. Hey, watch your tone. I'm the commander of an army now, not some puny mafia character you can brutally beat up. Adam whispered. Oh, so what do you want me to do? Dustin taunted in reply. I want you to give me more respect. Like when you ask me to do something for you, you need to word it in a way that sounds like you're pleading. You could, butter them up a little first, Adam said while dusting the badges on his shoulder pad. It seemed to Dustin that he was still as arrogant as ever. Forget I said anything. I'll go find someone else, Dustin spat, as he wasn't in the mood to play games with him. Don't hang up on me yet. Adam responded, all startled, before continuing with a face that was all smiles. Look at you, can't you take a joke? Honestly, you get mad at everything I say. You know how it is between us. If you have anything on your mind, you know that you can just tell me. What was I thinking? You're the commander and military god of the Dragonmarsh army now, after all. So, how could I possibly trouble you with this? Perhaps it'd be better to just find someone else. Dustin trailed off. No need to bother with that, Dustin. It would be an honor for me to do something for you. Just take it as you're granting a favor for me, alright? Please give me a chance. I promise to do a good job for you. Adam begged in a panicked tone. After waiting for so fucking long, he finally obtained a chance to show his strength. How could he let go of this opportunity so easily? Since you're the one doing the begging now, I'll give you a chance, as I can sense your sincerity through the phone, Dustin said. Thanks a lot, Dustin. Adam thanked him with a huge grin on his face. This display of his soft side caused a few female officers near him to stare at him in disbelief. All of their eyes were wide with shock, and they all looked as if they'd seen a ghost. Was this really their usual death stare and stoic commander? Who exactly was the person on the other side of the phone? How did they manage to make an esteemed military officer act so meekly like this? Chapter 185. At Fulridge Haven. Father. Please help Dustin. Otherwise, he'll die. Sheila begged on her knees. HMPH. You have the audacity to request assistance for him. He is responsible for Xavier's death. That is the gravest of offenses. The Horst army has already assembled all of Swinton's finest warriors. No one can save him now. Caden spoke with a frigid tone. Father. Dustin has rescued me on numerous occasions. Please help him, for my sake. Sheila pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Ever since she returned to Fulridge Haven, she hadn't stopped begging his father for his help. That was because only her father could go against the Horst army. It is exactly because he saved you that I refrained from taking his life. Caden retorted coldly. Father. I will do as long as you save Dustin. Sheila begged on all fours. Soon, her knees started to bruise. You fool. You have no idea what you're doing. Caden slammed the table as he stood up. Do you want me to cross the Horst family for a nobody? Have you no care about what might happen to the rest of us? I don't care about the others. I just know that Dustin saved me, and I must repay him. Sheila said with tearful eyes. You're being foolish and naive. Claudia. Bring her downstairs and keep an eye on her. She is not allowed to leave Fulridge Haven. Caden was fuming. Yes, sir. Claudia replied as she dragged Sheila away. Claudia. Please, help me, would you? Sheila's eyes were swollen red from her tears. Dummy, it's not worth it for a stranger. Claudia sighed. She could see that Sheila had fallen for Dustin. However, this love was destined to fail. She was from a rich family, and he was just an ordinary guy with no background. They were worlds apart. Claudia. Let me call Grandpa. As long as he agrees, Dustin will be saved. Sheila begged. Sheila, General Murray has no longer been concerned with these matters. Your father is the one in charge of everything now. Claudia shook her head. No matter what, I must give it a try. I won't give up. Sheila said, full of stubbornness. All right then, I hope you don't regret it. Claudia could only pass her phone to Sheila. From her standpoint, Sheila was wasting her energy. General Murray was one of the highest-ranking generals in Swinton. 10 years ago, he had already retired and passed down all his responsibilities to Kirin. Unless his family is threatened, he would never show his face. It was impossible for him to put in such great effort for such a small matter. 10 p.m., at Swinton Horse Dojo. Gabriel, dressed in heavy armor, stood stoically within the ring, his fierce expressions sending chills down the spines of any who dared to meet his gaze. Behind him loomed the elite members of the Horst family, their presence commanding respect and fear alike. As far as the eye could see, there were hundreds of them stretching across the horizon, a formidable force to be reckoned with. In the crowd, Nigel was whispering to a group of people. Mr. Lincoln, do you think that Rhys fellow would show up tonight? The girl in a yellow shirt asked. HMPH. Even if he doesn't dare to show up, he's still dead meat. The only difference is whether he dies alone or with his entire family. Nigel laughed coldly. The Horst family reigned supreme at the apex of the martial arts world, their wealth and power placing them among the elite in Millsburg. How can a nobody from the countryside be able to fend against them? He's a fool who deserved death for crossing the Horst family. Sure, he may bask in the glory for a few seconds, but eventually, he'll have to face the consequences of his actions. A few people in the group shook their heads, waiting for the showdown to begin. Hey, I think someone's coming. At that moment, someone from the crowd shouted. Everyone looked over and noticed a silhouette slowly approaching them. Chapter 186. That fellow really dared to come. He really doesn't treasure his life. Your bravery is commendable. But showing up here is a foolish move. The crowd erupted into an uproar, with a variety of expressions on their faces. Dustin Rhys is it. A guard from the Horst family took a step forward, his voice booming with authority. That's me. Dustin replied, unfazed. So, you're the one who killed my son, Xavier. Gabriel's fierce gaze remained fixed on Dustin, his expression stern and unyielding. Yes. Dustin nodded once again. Kneel down. Gabriel roared. Kneel. You're not worthy of such respect. Dustin retorted. Dustin added, Horst, I'll give you a chance. Hand over the people who trespassed at Peaceful Medical Center and apologize to Gregory. Then, I'll spare your life. The crowd went wild at his statement. Holy shit. Is he out of his mind? He's still acting so brazen even when his life is at stake. Having killed Xavier, he dares to demand an apology from Sir Gabriel. He's wild. Those who are ignorant are the ones who are fearless. This guy has no idea who he just crossed. The crowd murmured as they pointed at Dustin. Punk. Do you know what you're saying? You are the one who is trapped now. If you don't want to suffer a painful death, hand over the Gozoraberry and beg for forgiveness on your knees. Otherwise, you will be erased from this world. Gabriel's face darkened, and his voice became cold and ominous. I may not have the Gozoraberry, but I still have my life. If you think you're capable of taking it, then come and get it. Dustin motioned with his finger. Great. How absolutely fantastic. Since you don't value your life, then don't blame me for what happens next. Guards. Cut off this insolent punk's limbs. I want his head on a stick as revenge. Soon after his orders, a few guards rushed towards him, trying to get a head start. Boom. With a loud stomp of his foot, the ground beneath Dustin shattered, sending debris flying across the room in all directions. As the debris flew across the room, some of it moved with such force that it struck the guards like bullets, causing them to stumble and fall to the ground. Within a matter of seconds, a few of the guards had fallen to the ground, groaning in pain as they clutched their wounds. Go! All of you! Gabriel thundered, his voice filled with anger and frustration. Kill him! At Gabriel's command, a large number of guards charged toward Dustin, their weapons raised and their faces filled with fury. The guards surrounded Dustin like a tidal wave. HMPH. This punk is dead meat. The members of Horse Dojo are all elites. He won't be able to fend them off no matter how skilled he is. Nigel laughed. I can't wait to see him defeated. The girl in yellow laughed along with him. He's not even running after being surrounded by that many guards. Does he plan to fight all of them alone? Ha ha ha. Does he think he's Superman? The group of people laughed as they mocked Dustin, waiting for a good show. Yet, in a few moments, their smiles were frozen in place. As the fight began, the match took a completely different turn from what they had expected. Dustin was unstoppable and invincible. 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 30. In just 2 minutes, more than half of the guards from the Horst family had fallen. Till that moment, no one could match Dustin's level of combat. The whole scene was a massacre. Dustin alone was slaughtering the bunch of them. He's on another level. Chapter 187. 10 minutes later. The entire Horse Dojo was filled with pained groans. Dustin stood amidst the crowd, emanating a presence akin to that of a god or demon. His presence was awe-inspiring, commanding, and intimidating. A few people in the audience were stunned. They stared with widened eyes as if they saw a ghost. Everyone was taken aback by Dustin's strength. Single-handedly, he had managed to sweep through the entire Horse Dojo. It should be noted that these warriors were the elite of the dojo, capable of facing 10 opponents alone. Yet, in the span of a few minutes, all of them were taken down. This was too absurd. Fuck. He's that strong. He's on an entirely different level. My goodness, where did this demon come from? Nigel and the others were stunned speechless, especially a few girls who covered their mouths in shock. Dustin alone faced off against 100 soldiers, slaughtering people from all directions. It was truly unbelievable. The Horse Dojo is nothing. Dustin stood proudly as his gaze landed on Gabriel. I have to admit, kid, you're pretty good. I underestimated you earlier. Gabriel took off his coat, revealing his muscular body and long sword at his waist. But it ends here. Today, I'll personally take your life. As he spoke, he slowly drew his long sword, and a cold light flashed around him. Sir Gabriel is unleashing his full strength. This kid is doomed. Nigel became excited at the sight. Have you heard of the 100 Immortals? Of course. The 100 Immortals is a combat power ranking list in the martial world. In Dragonmarsh, there are millions of martial arts practitioners, but only 100 can make it onto the 100 Immortals. These 100 individuals are all the cream of the crop, the most outstanding top-tier experts. Nigel arrogantly lifted his head and said, good to know. Let me tell you, he is one of the top 10 of the 100 Immortals. What? Top 10 of the 100 Immortals? The others were all shocked at the news. They knew that Gabriel was powerful, but they never expected him to be ranked so high on the 100 Immortals list. It was extremely difficult to even make it onto the list, and even more so to become one of its top members. Any one of the top 10 could easily sweep through all the martial arts dojos in Swinton. It seems that I underestimated Sir Gabriel's terrifying power. He truly is a martial art master born into a martial arts family. This poor guy, he actually provoked Sir Gabriel, he's looking for death. The onlookers were all full of surprise and pity, looking at Dustin as if he were already dead. I heard that Sir Gabriel's sword is faster than a bullet, and no one can block it. Is it true? The girl in yellow suddenly asked. Of course it's true. Sir Gabriel's sword is famous for its speed, especially his ultimate move. Eclipse Strike. Whenever he uses it, no one has ever escaped alive. Nigel spoke boastfully. Wow, that's amazing. I wonder if we'll have the chance to witness Sir Gabriel's ultimate move today. The girl in a yellow dress looked on with anticipation and admiration. Quick, look. Sir Gabriel is about to make his move. As the crowd discussed, on the stage, Gabriel's aura became more imposing, exuding an intense and sharp pressure. Kid, it's an honor to die by my sword, Gabriel declared. Now, let me show you what it means to break all laws with a single sword strike. With a single step, Gabriel leaped high off the stage. Upon landing, he crouched slightly, gathering energy before springing forward like an arrow and hurtling towards Dustin. Eclipse strike, Gabriel roared, unleashing his ultimate move. Instantly, the air was filled with the glint of the sword and the howling of the wind. Here it comes, Sir Gabriel's most powerful sword strike. No wonder it's his ultimate move. It's so cool. No one can survive the eclipse strike. The crowd shouted in admiration and shock. Gabriel and his sword merged into a rainbow of light, piercing straight toward Dustin's chest. Right when it seemed like a killing blow was about to land, a light, ding, sound was heard. Suddenly, two fingers appeared out of nowhere, gripping the sword. With a simple twist, the sword snapped in half. Clang! The wind ceased, and the light dispersed. Huh! Gabriel was stunned. He stood in place, a little lost on what to do. My famous move was actually blocked just like that. And with just two fingers. He thought. How is this possible? Cried Nigel, his face turning pale. Chapter 188. Smack. When the last slap fell, Gabriel was completely disfigured, with a crooked nose, a twisted mouth, and half of his teeth falling out, looking extremely miserable. He collapsed on the ground, completely powerless. He never expected Dustin to be so strong, to the point where he couldn't even fight back throughout the whole fight. He could only passively take the beating without any resistance. With this kind of strength, Dustin might even well be in the top 3 of the 100 immortals. Did I see it right? Sir Gabriel was actually defeated. And so miserably. Who is this guy? What kind of monster is he? After a long silence in the martial arts gym, there was finally some sound. However, no one responded because the facts were already laid out in front of them. Gabriel had indeed lost and was completely crushed throughout the entire fight. The so-called top 10 of the 100 immortals and his so-called eclipse strike, his ultimate move, had become a joke at this moment. Dustin's strength was far beyond everyone's imagination. With just a slap, he could render Gabriel completely powerless. Who are you? Gabriel sat on the ground, his face twisted with fear. How could there be such a powerful person in a small place like Swinton, and more importantly, one so young? This was simply abnormal. Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is, will you still be able to survive after this? Dustin looked down at him coldly. Upon hearing this, Gabriel first froze, then burst out laughing maniacally, his face distorted. Kid. I admit you are strong, even exceptionally talented. But the problem is, you are just one person, and behind me stands the entire Horst family. The disciples of the Horst family are well into the thousands, spread throughout the 17 provinces of Swinton. Will you be able to defeat 10, 100, or even thousands of them? If you dare to kill me today, you will become the public enemy of the entire Horst family. By then, you will face countless warriors' relentless pursuit, day and night. You should weigh the consequences yourself. After hearing these words, Nigel and the others, who were initially shocked and confused, immediately came back to their senses. That's right, so what if Dustin is so powerful? He was still only a human being who has weaknesses and flaws. The Horst family was a wealthy and powerful family in the capital with tons of skilled warriors, some even stronger than Gabriel himself. Once these strong warriors learn of the news and gather up, it would be easy to crush him. The crowd thought. A person who acts recklessly will always remain so, and can never attain the heights of true strength. Nigel shook his head and retained his calm smile. Exactly. No matter how powerful he is still an ant in front of the great Horst family. He'll be crushed easily. The girl in the yellow dress followed up in agreement. In this world, it is not strength that matters but power and connections. This kid will ultimately face death. After realizing this, the group of people couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement about Dustin's impending doom. Are you so confident that the Horst family can protect you? Dustin looked at Gabriel with a meaningful smile on his lips. What? Do you still want to challenge the entire Horst family with your own strength? Gabriel sneered, with a condescending look on his face. Challenge. You are overestimating yourself a little. Give the Horst family a call and ask if they can protect you. Do they even dare to protect you? Dustin sneered. Huh. Gabriel narrowed his eyes and, after confirming that the other party was not joking, immediately took out his phone. However, the dozens of missed calls on it made him frown slightly. He felt a sense of unease in his heart. He took a deep breath and dialed the number back. As soon as the call was connected, his father's roar came from the other side. Gabriel. Where the hell have you been? Your phone has been unreachable. You despicable animal. What the hell have you done? Our entire family has been ruined by you. If I had known this would happen, I should have strangled you to death earlier. So that you wouldn't bring disaster to our whole family. His father's angry rant immediately stunned Gabriel. After a while, Gabriel tentatively asked, Dad, what happened exactly? You still have the nerve to ask what happened. It's all your fault. It's all because of you, you despicable animal. Our entire family has been banned from killing by the military. Do you know who issued the kill ban order? It was Adam Spanner. It's the god of war, Adam Spanner. One of the twin stars of the Spanner family and the youngest chief commander in Dragonmarsh. If the god of war personally takes action, what the hell have you done to offend him? As he listened to his father's shouting in his ear, Gabriel felt as if he had been struck by lightning and stood there stunned. God of war. Adam Spanner. Kill ban. How could this be possible? Die. Just go and die. No one can protect you. And no one dares to protect you. Only when you die can the Horst family survive. His father's voice came through the phone again. Gabriel stood there, at a loss. His face was full of disbelief. How could the world-renowned god of war, Sergeant Spanner, suppress the Horst family? Who could request Sergeant Spanner to intervene? So, do you still think that the Horst family will stand up for you? Dustin's indifferent voice sounded. Was it you? Was this all you're doing? Who are you? Why would even Sergeant Spanner stand up for you? Gabriel trembled all over, raised his head, and looked at Dustin in horror. He couldn't believe it. How could such a deity-like person be hiding in a small place like Swinton? You don't deserve to know who I am. Now, I'll give you a chance to take your own life, so that you can still save your family. As he spoke, Dustin kicked the broken sword on the ground toward Gabriel. Take my own life. Looking at his broken sword, Gabriel was stunned. His face was ashen, and his eyes were filled with despair. Then, in front of a group of people with shocked, astonished, and unbelieving eyes, Gabriel picked up the sword and directly severed his own neck. In an instant, his head rolled off and blood spattered on the ground. Chapter 189. Looking at the head rolling on the ground prompted a brief silence from those in the martial arts gym, followed by the commotion and screams. No one expected that Gabriel would choose to commit suicide so decisively and ferociously. With one sword, he cut off his own head. Has he lost his mind? What did you do to Sir Gabriel? Nigel was sweating with fear. You want to find out? Go ask him yourself. Ignoring the shocked expressions of everyone, Dustin turned around and left the gym. As soon as he left, a fully armed team immediately rushed in and sealed off the scene. Everyone involved was arrested. He didn't care to worry about what happened next. With Sergeant Spanner's power, there would naturally be no loopholes in handling this small matter. On the other side, at Fourridge Haven. What? Dustin didn't die. How could this happen? Gabriel is in the top 10 on the 100 Immortals, and he brought so many elite members of the Horst family to help him out. It should have been easy to deal with that kid. When the news came out, Caden couldn't help but furrow his brows slightly. We still don't know the details. There was no news from the dojo. We only heard that Dustin returned unharmed, the guard whispered. That's odd. Where is Gabriel? Call him and ask, Caden said thoughtfully. Sir Gabriel disappeared. The phone won't get through, and the dojo has been sealed off by the military, the guard replied. Sealed off by the military. What happened? We're not sure yet. Send someone to investigate and find out what happened, Caden ordered. Yes, sir. The guard agreed and quickly left. However, at that moment, a strong windy blade sound could suddenly be heard from outside. A military helicopter descended from the sky and landed steadily on the square. As the cabin door opened, an old man with white hair and a burly figure, followed by several subordinates, walked out confidently. The old man had a square face, a goatee, and a dignified look, emitting a strong and powerful aura. That was the aura of a seasoned warrior, formed after many years on the battlefield. Ordinary people would shiver at the sight of him and wouldn't dare to get close. The old man was none other than Christopher Murray, the founding father of Dragonmarsh. Father, what brings you here? When Christopher walked into the council chamber, Caden, who was drinking tea, was startled. The tea spilled all over the floor, and the teacup shattered on the ground. But he didn't have time to care about that and got up to greet him respectfully, like a mouse meeting a cat. Although Christopher had not been involved in the family's affairs for 10 years, his accumulated influence over the years still made people tremble with fear. Even Caden, as the heir, didn't dare to behave out of line. Kneel down, Christopher uttered 2 words softly. What? Caden was stunned for a moment, then obediently knelt down on the ground. In the Murray family, Christopher was like a god, and no one dared to defy him. Do you know the reason why I made you kneel? Christopher sat down on the chair. His presence was imposing. I don't know. Caden lowered his head. HMPH. You've damaged the reputation of our family. You did things you shouldn't have done and offended people you shouldn't have offended. The Murray family's reputation was almost ruined by you. Christopher spoke with a cold expression. Huh. Father, I don't quite understand. Caden was stunned. You don't even know you've made a big mistake. The Murray will be destroyed by you sooner or later if you don't step down from the position of head of the family. If you're not capable of handling it, then step down now. Christopher was livid. Step down. Caden was stunned. He thought his father was just going to scold him a few times, but he didn't expect him to directly strip him of his power. Over the years, he had worked hard for the Murray family, focusing on his work and getting things done. Although he didn't have much merit, he at least kept the entire family in order. Now, he was suddenly asked to step down without knowing the reason behind it. He was very dissatisfied. Father, I don't understand. What did I do wrong? Caden was unwilling. You are ignorant and short-sighted. You don't recognize a true dragon when you see one. Retire and reflect on it before you cause any bigger trouble. After you've figured it out, then we'll talk. Christopher left no room for argument. Caden opened his mouth to explain but was interrupted by Christopher. Save some dignity for yourself, and don't disappoint me further. Upon hearing this, Caden fell silent, feeling confused as he knelt on the ground. Leave and call Sheila. Christopher waved his hand. Yes. Caden didn't dare to disobey, so he bowed deeply before turning and leaving. His face was filled with gloominess. Grandpa. You really came. After a while. Sheila ran into the living room with a surprised look on her face. She threw herself into Christopher's arms and tearfully pleaded, Grandpa. You came just in time. Please. Save Dustin. He's about to die. Okay. All right. Silly girl, Dustin is fine now. Christopher showed a rare smile. Back then, Caden was able to take the position of head of the family because he gave Christopher this precious granddaughter. Really? Dustin is really okay. Sheila wiped away her tears quickly. Of course. When has Grandpa ever lied to you? Christopher patted her head. Thank you, Grandpa. Excited, Sheila planted a kiss on her grandfather's face. This made the old man burst into laughter, and he couldn't stop grinning. Little girl, are you so nervous about Dustin because you have a crush on him? Christopher suddenly asked. Huh. Sheila was stunned at first, then her face turned red in an instant. Grandpa. What are you talking about? I don't have a crush on him. Hee. If you like someone, then you like them. What's there to be afraid of admitting? Young people should be bold. Christopher laughed. Grandpa, Dustin saved me before. I'm just grateful to him. Sheila lowered her head, stuttered, and her neck turned red. Just grateful. Then why were you crying for him? Little girl, if you really like him, take the initiative to pursue him, and don't miss any opportunity. That kid is not an ordinary person. If you can win him over, it will be great news for me too. Christopher rubbed his beard and laughed. After all, Dustin was the Kirin. If he can become my grandson-in-law, those old guys will be jealous and crazy, won't they? Ha ha ha, he thought. Chapter 190. When Dustin returned to Peaceful Medical Center, everything that had been smashed and damaged had been cleaned up. The whole clinic was like new again. Dahlia was sleeping on the table, leaning on it with a slightly haggard look on her beautiful face and eyebrows slightly furrowed. Looking at her, Dustin felt a complicated mix of emotions and couldn't help but feel grateful. After all, she had saved Gregory's life. He took off his coat and draped it over Dahlia. Dahlia trembled all over and instantly woke up. You're back. Are you hurt? I'm fine, thank you for today, Dustin said politely. Don't mention it. It's only right for me to take care of Mr. Jones when he's injured, Dahlia said, pursing her lips. Have you eaten? Are you hungry? A little. You want your usual, spaghetti bolognese. Thank you. Wait a moment. Without much ado, Dustin walked into the kitchen and began to skillfully cook the dish. In the 3 years of their marriage, whenever Dahlia came back late and hungry, he would prepare a midnight snack for her. Especially spaghetti bolognese. She never got tired of it. But at some point, the distance between them grew farther and farther, and their relationship became more and more estranged. Eventually, they ended up divorcing. Here's your spaghetti. About 15 minutes later, Dustin brought up a steaming plate of spaghetti bolognese. It smells so good. Dahlia sniffed, immediately digging in. In no time, she had finished the bowl of pasta, even drinking up all the sauce. The taste is amazing. It seems like your cooking skills have improved. Dahlia gave a rare smile. Maybe it's just that you haven't eaten it in a long time, Dustin said suddenly. Is that so? Maybe. Dahlia's gaze became a little dim. Unknowingly, 3 years had passed. Over time, many things that had once been routine had become second nature to Dahlia. She had grown accustomed to having someone bring her warm clothes when the weather turned cold, to having someone cook for her whenever she felt hungry, and to having someone by her side when she was ill. But when those routines changed, she found herself at a loss. Dustin, will we be able to return to what we were before? After a moment of silence, Dahlia suddenly asked. Dustin, who was about to wash the dishes, froze for a moment and was speechless for a while. Could they go back to the past? Maybe a while back, they could have. At one point, he even wished that she would say so. But now, ring ring ring. At that moment, a phone started ringing. Dustin put down his fork and answered, greeted by a gentle and crisp voice. Hey honey, where are you? Do you want to come out for a late night snack together? This is a great opportunity for you to get me drunk. I can't go tonight. Gregory's not feeling well, I have to stay home and take care of him, Dustin replied awkwardly. Gregory is sick. Then I'll come over right away. Natasha said anxiously. No need, It's just a minor illness, nothing serious, Dustin quickly responded. Gregory is getting old. We shouldn't be careless about it. How about this? I'll send someone over tomorrow to help take care of him. That's too much trouble. I can take care of him myself. You're a big man, clumsy, and prone to making mistakes. You'll inevitably overlook something. I'll send an experienced caretaker over to take care of Gregory's daily needs, and that's settled. Natasha declared, leaving. No room for argument. All right then. After thinking about it, Dustin finally agreed. Having someone around to accompany Gregory would make it safer to avoid any further accidents. Oh, by the way, there's one more thing. Amortinol has already made a name for itself, but if we want to sell it everywhere, we'll need to find a few agents. Tomorrow, I'll be holding an open recruitment at Mirage. You, as the major shareholder, can't be absent, Natasha said. Okay, I'll definitely be there tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, Dustin met a pair of resentful eyes. That was Natasha who just called, right? Talking on the phone so late at night, it seems like your relationship with her is not ordinary. Dahlia said in a sour tone. We're just enough. You don't need to explain anything to me. I'm not interested in listening. Take care of Gregory well, I'll go back to rest, Dahlia said, getting up and leaving before Dustin could even respond. Dustin shook his head. He was rendered speechless by Dahlia's behavior. What was that all about? The following morning, the council hall at Mirage was packed with people who had gathered for the distributorship of Amortinol. Ever since the press conference held by the Harmon family, news of the popular medicine had spread across Swinton, and many wealthy people were looking to get a piece of the action. As Matt and Julie walked in, Matt turned to Julie and asked, "Can that Harvey guy really help me get a distributorship?" Of course. Harvey is a key member of Harmon Pharmaceuticals, and he has influential people supporting him. If he's willing to help, it's a guarantee. Julie replied confidently. Fantastic. I'll make sure to show my appreciation generously after the deal is done, Matt replied, feeling energized. The Laney family was struggling, and they desperately needed a way to revive their fortunes. Amortinol was that chance. Therefore, this was an opportunity that could not be missed. Matt, you're too kind. A small favor like this is nothing. Julie smiled. As Julie was speaking, she suddenly frowned. What is that piece of trash, Dustin, doing here? Matt followed her gaze and saw Dustin's face, feeling a sense of irritation as he remembered their encounter a few days ago. Since they had bumped into Dustin today, they needed to humiliate him somehow. Let's have some fun with him. Matt said coldly to Julie, then walked towards Dustin. Well, if it isn't Rhys. Are you also trying to be a distributor for Harmon? Rhys. He's nothing but a piece of trash. Why would the Harmon family work with someone like him without any qualifications? Julie added sarcastically. I don't have the qualifications. Do you have the qualifications to work with the Harmon family then? Dustin sneered. Why wouldn't we? The manager here, Harvey, is like a brother to me. As long as I say the word, it will be easy to get the distributorship. Julie replied arrogantly. Dustin shook his head and replied, really? I don't think that would be the case. I believe the Harmon family won't give you the distributorship. What? You say they won't give it to us, and they won't. Who do you think you are? Julie sneered. Dustin smiled faintly and said, me. I'm the chief physician of the Rhys family, and I'm also the major shareholder of Amortinol.